Welcome to Attack of the Show on G4 TV. I'm your host, Gina Darling. Let's go around the net.
Oh man, she went back to the set to see it one last time.
Yeah.
This is why all of this G4 stuff really sucks.
You forget that there's human beings involved, really. I mean, yeah, Gina Darling got to live her dream. She got to talk video games for a living. She got to be a host on G4.
Speaking of hosts, I am Mecca. Who are you? Why are you here?
I'm Rob off camera.
We forgot that part. It's all right. It's all right. We were just talking about this. I'm like, let's pull up the recorder because I really want to kind of go over who tanked G4, what tanked G4, how, like what role we played in it too. They're gonna blame all of the quote unquote toxic haters and trolls and the.
It was me. I tanked G4. I did it. Here we have Gina Darling. She went to the set one more time, probably just to clear out whatever stuff she had there. I mean,
she said her last tweet on her other account was getting to live my dream.
Yeah. And
how many of us sat there and were like, oh, I would love to be a host on Attack of the Show or X-Play or do a segment or something. I loved that. And I think that's what really killed G4 is it inspired all of us to do that in some way.
Well, G4 existed at a time when there was no YouTube, when there was no Twitch, when there was is there another thing like YouTube or Twitch? I mean, I don't
like Hitbox for about a minute.
Yeah, I mean,
what was Twitch used to be Justin TV, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, there was no TikTok. There was none of that.
But YouTube was just like in its infancy when G4 was kind of.
That was around 2006.
Yeah, kind of on the way down. So once YouTube and pretty much everybody had smartphone technology, everybody had video camera technology. Once the technology kind of caught up with the layman, the normie, we could all do what they were doing on G4.
That's the thing. Listen, you can. We talked about. Okay, we have an article here.
Yeah. Let's jump to the article.
Okay, why G4 failed from the Washington Post,
and they're gonna blame us. All they're gonna do, and they're gonna probably say, "Oh, the toxic fans went after Frosk after her rant," and they're gonna do all kinds of stuff. Probably
they kind of cast a wide net. Constant pivots, high costs, and controversy bedeviled the directionless network in the lead up to its collapse.
When did this article come out?
This came out
today. 21st. Okay.
Yeah. So G4, the video game, television, and online network backed by Comcast, abruptly closed on October 16th. In a memo to staff published by Deadline, Comcast Spectacor CEO David Scott wrote of lower viewership and that G4 had not achieved sustainable financial results before relaying the decision to discontinue G4's operations. As sudden as the end game was, it didn't surprise a number of now former G4 employees who believed the venture's end had been nigh for months.
Yeah. Well, this is really the question, though. Like, I still have a gut feeling that this was kind of doomed to fail to the beginning, the beginning, and that Frosk's rant did nothing but help it temporarily. Because I think, look at the numbers. It boosted the ratings for a bit, or boosted the views for a little bit.
I think it helped. In the short term, it helps, but in the long term, she became the face of the network, which I don't think they wanted.
No.
And
should have been Gina Darling as the face of the network.
Should have been Gina Darling. I hate saying she's absolutely adorable. You put her up front. You say Gina Darling. If you put her in all the publicity photos, G4. Put her in a G4 T-shirt. They should have promoted
more of the Attack of the Show, is what they should have done, because Attack of the Show was always my favorite. X-Play was great, but the problem was they surrounded so much stuff on the X-Play, and they had the D&D stuff they were really, really hyper-focused on.
Yeah.
And they put a little of it on Twitch and a little bit of it on YouTube, and they were so disjointed and so unfocused, they didn't even know what to focus on. Had they just brought back one show, had said, you know what, we're going to bring back Attack of the Show and X-Play, but no, then they had all these little comedy things and all their behind the scenes stuff, and they would have the live feed going in between, like they were doing the commercial breaks, and it was like, I just don't want to watch this raw. I don't want to
Okay. In interviews with the Washington Post, 11 former G4 staffers described their experience at the network leading up to its recent closure. Speaking on the condition of anonymity due to the signing of non-disclosure agreements, that's pretty common.
Yeah.
They described a work environment with ever-shifting priorities from leadership that never settled on a strategy to develop their audience. Mm-hmm. Well, it just sounds like they're a rudderless ship.
Yeah, they're like, well, we were famous before. We made it happen before. We'll just get all those people back.
Well, okay, I'll make a point here in a minute here. That same leadership was sometimes absent from day-to-day operations, according to the workers interviewed, who felt they often leaned on the G4 name and other nostalgic show brands and struggled to reconcile the differences between broadcasting on linear television compared to online platforms like YouTube and Twitch.
Literally what I just said.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is like the question of leadership. I mean, there was a coach. It was a basketball player who said to his new head coach who came in and said, "It's going to be different this time. I've had 5 coaches in 4 years, and they all told me it was going to be different." So if you have a revolving door of bosses, they're never going to decide on which direction to go. Mm-hmm. It makes things much more chaotic. Ex-G4 workers and outside talent familiar with the network's expenditures also noted how it would pay grand sums to hosts and guests with robust streaming audiences, while shrinking staff size demanded more work from off-camera employees.
Well, here's the thing. I heard on one of the drama things that's going around, somebody got in an argument with somebody else on YouTube, and basically they were saying some employee at G4 was defending people like Frosk, saying, yeah, she's making her own graphics, she's doing all kinds of stuff behind the scenes. So on-air talent was doing behind the scenes stuff.
And that's not uncommon in a workplace these days. You get one person to do the job of 3 people. I mean, so
even especially in like low budget cable television. Mm-hmm. And I think that they kind of forgot that, you're also YouTube, you're also Twitch. What the crap are you doing?
Yeah.
All right, what else does the article say?
We understand that G4 employees are disappointed, and we are too, rather. Scott wrote in a statement to the Post, "Everyone will have their own opinions, but with as any startup, we all worked hard to make G4 successful. We'll continue to support our teammates through this time." Comcast announced the return of G4, a network dedicated to gaming culture, in July of 2020. The period was something of a boom time for the video game industry, with gaming on the rise following the onset of the great you-know-what and the great toilet paper shortage.
Yeah.
And young viewers flocking to online platforms like Twitch and YouTube, which served as the preferred platform that the audience's beloved content creators. The original incarnation of G4 had been dormant since 2014. While it never achieved mainstream popularity, shows like humorous game review vehicle X-Play and pop culture variety hour Attack of the Show struck a chord with geeky audiences who struggled to find television programming that catered to their interests. As the YouTube and Twitch generation shifted away from traditional television, many content creators drew inspiration from the irreverent antics of G4 hosts like Adam Sessler, Morgan Webb, and Kevin Pereira. The new G4...
And Olivia Munn.
And Olivia Munn, that's right.
You're forgetting the most important, Olivia Munn.
The new G4 returned with a flashy and expensive new studio facility and a soft launch in early 2021. It was greeted with excitement and a wave of nostalgia, but ex-G4 employees and contractors with whom the Post spoke said that despite lofty ambitions and talented staff with exciting and creative ideas, G4 immediately lacked direction. During its 10-month revival, shows regularly changed format and platform in response to viewership numbers and trends. The significant, numerous, and rapid changes, the workers said, threw planning into chaos.
See, that's why I could never figure out when Attack of the Show was on.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I said, it was a revolving door. They just kept trying to second guess everything, which is not a good strategy. Additionally, a controversial segment by X-Play host, here we go, host Indiana Frosker in Black, in which Black called out sexism within the show's audience, led to a sustained harassment of Black and other talent.
Actually, according to Frosk, she said she got doxxed and harassed. Okay, I can believe she got harassed, but the dog piles on Twitter are real, believe me. But the whole doxing and getting threats and stuff, I don't know if that ever was actually a thing that happened, but she accuses people of doing so and said that in Twitter a few days ago, and I did a video on that management, she went to management and they basically became very hostile after a while, after she was pretty much led to believe that it would be this diversity sort of network. And I think once viewers realized that that was what a lot of the people behind the scenes wanted, and it wasn't going to be, just the fun G4 anymore, then we kind of all tuned out.
Yeah.
But, I think a lot of us just kind of forgot about it until then.
Though sometimes heralded as recession for the video game industry has recently faced economic headwinds. A growing number of companies ranging from upstarts like G4 to tech behemoths like Google and Microsoft has scaled down their ambitions, shuttered projects and divisions, and let go of employees. Then, a streaming network similar to G4, funded by venture capital firms and billed as the MTV of video games, launched in August of 2020 and shut down just a year later. One former Venn employee described the business to Input as top to bottom a complete colossal failure. I've never heard of this Venn thing. No, this is news to me.
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know. I've never heard of it. That shows you why it failed. Among multiple causes employees believe sunk G4, several ex-employees pointed to Tucker Roberts, son of billionaire Comcast CEO Brian Roberts, and then president of Comcast Spectacor's gaming brand. Oh, the guy's son. Wonder how he got that job. While G4's revival was largely the younger Roberts' brainchild, the former's employees described him as fickle and absent. One employee familiar with Roberts' decision-making said the executive would regularly change his mind about crucial decisions. For example, the number of separate YouTube channels G4 needed, which spread out audiences and hurt viewership, or the direction of the network's esports coverage, which changed numerous times.
That's another thing. You hire somebody like Frosk who does know her crap with esports. And here, I have to defend her because nobody else will, right? And seriously, she does know her esports. She knows her Pokemon. She knows stuff like that. But you put her on with X-Play, and it's a completely different environment where you cannot have other people review games and have somebody else read a script. You just can't. You have to have the individual player review the individual game, and no matter what, listing the team of people who write for you probably was like a big, see, they admitted it was an own. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants the quote-unquote fake geek stuff. Nobody wants an actor reading a script.
Well, it also comes down to business. I mean, you have to trust the decision-making people to make those decisions and to carry them out.
No, yeah, and they're not. So they're treating it still the same as the old G4, the old X-Play.
Yeah, Roberts officially stepped away from G4 in March, just 4 months after G4 relaunched in full. According to a former staffer, the network's priorities would vary depending on which leader employees asked. Again,
right-hand didn't know what the left was doing.
Exactly. There was never a clear viewership goal or platform to prioritize. Like I said, they had no game plan. It looks like. So this was not Comcast nor Roberts' first foray into the game industry. In 2018, the company announced that Tucker Roberts would helm Philadelphia Fusion, an esports franchise that in the just launched Overwatch League. The first wave of Overwatch League franchises sold for a reported $20 million. And Philadelphia reached the league's first championship. Comcast, there's an Overwatch League? Wow.
Oh yeah.
Comcast further invested in the scene with the construction of the Fusion Arena, billed as a $50 million next-generation esports arena, and situated alongside Philadelphia's other two major sports venues, like the Eagles' Lincoln Financial Field. In 2019, Comcast partnered with South Korean wireless telecom company SK Telecom to launch a global joint esports venture, T1 Entertainment and Sports. Comcast declined to make Roberts and other G4 leaders available for an interview with the Post, supplying instead a statement from Scott. So, this is Scott's statement. As a startup, a multi-platform network, G4 tested various content and distribution strategies, Scott wrote, and was the case for many other recent gaming content ventures. There was just not enough interest. So, again...
Yeah, they could have focused on esports, because esports are huge, especially in South Korea.
Yeah. So this is a pretty long read here. I mean, this goes over a lot. I mean, so the basic problem here is that G4 they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
They honestly, long story short, they had no idea what they were doing. They had no strategy. They had no end goal. We want to reach this number of viewers, in 6 months, let's just say 6 months,
Yeah.
we want to do it on these platforms, we want to be this. Even just a mission statement, we want to be this.
I think their mission statement was, hey, let's turn G4 back on and it'll get the same viewership it used to because it's the same, right?
Yeah.
And then it wasn't.
I mean,
but it kind of was, but it really wasn't, you know?
Yeah, the brunt of GeForce efforts focused on Twitch and YouTube, but multiple former employees insisted that linear television was actually GeForce's most promising moneymaker due to its ability to attract sponsorship revenue, like the likes of Head and Shoulders, Pizza Hut, SteelSeries, the U.S. Army. But instead of focusing on linear as a foundation, ex-employees said leadership poured money into repeated changes to shows, platforms, and formats. We would sort of get momentum on trying to make a creative product, and we were like, I think we're finding our voice, says an ex-coordinator. But then we wouldn't have funding anymore because it was too expensive, or leadership was like, we care much more about Twitch than YouTube today. So, okay, again, comes back to the basic problem. We don't know what we're doing. Let's try that. You know, I've often said, listen, you try one thing. If it doesn't work, you try something else. But you have to give that thing you tried some time to germinate and ferment and blossom and bloom.
Seems like they want to just instantly, we want to find the thing that's going to instantly give us 100,000 views. And it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes, whatever game you're covering isn't that interesting. YouTube especially, if you're on YouTube, people will go with the most controversial, crazy thing, which is why political content's like the big thing.
Yeah, and here's their other problem here. Big names, some of whom appeared on Name Your Price show's recurring game show, made $10,000 to $20,000 for brief appearances or raids in which popular streamers like Pokimane. Are we gonna get sued by her now?
No.
Anis would send their audiences to GeForce channel to boost its numbers, according to multiple former employees. Even Short's visits by popular guests could be expensive. Steinkamp, don't know who that is, according to a former employee with knowledge of these figures, was paid $20,000 for a half-hour call in appearance on GeForce Esports program. We heard that Amaranth was getting a very large sum. I don't know what that number was.
I think people just assumed it was her, that she was one of them, because she also charges quite a high rate. But
yeah, and here we go. Russell Aarons, who joined G4 as president in September 2021, following senior level roles at Warner Brothers Machinima Electronic Arts, was supposed to supplant Roberts and shepherd G4 once it launched in November per Comcast. So they had trouble even before they went on the air.
Yeah.
From that time, former employees said leadership decision was making was diffused. Some major decisions came from Aarons, while others came from Roberts. Again, you don't trust the people you have to make decisions. Mm-hmm. I mean, there has to be one clear voice, one direction. And if that doesn't work, okay, this isn't working.
This reminds me of retail. This is like every retail store I've ever worked at.
Yeah. So this is actually a pretty interesting read here. But again, here's what it comes down to. Here's what GeForce failures come down to. It comes down to no clear leadership, no clear strategy, and time. The timing of this was bad.
Yeah, right after 2020. Had they launched it in 2020, they probably could have done better, because then we could have spent time with these hosts and built them up. But in 2020, everybody got hyper focused on hyper politics stuff, and everything got every piece of entertainment got politicized. Every piece of everything got.
Okay, and here they talk about Frosk's rant.
Yeah,
it's dehumanizing. It's dehumanizing, and it's weird.
It's dehumanizing and it's weird.
Black said it, saying Morgan Webb, Olivia Munn, both former G4 hosts, did not exist to be nice on the ice for you. Yeah, they kind of did.
Wrong dog it. Oh! My friends, this is America at its finest. Drink it up.
And Olivia Munn, she knew she was nice on the ice, and she played that for all it's worth, but she had the personality to get away with it. Mm-hmm. Initially, the segment had G4 support, with a now deleted tweet from the network's official account saying, "We stand with Black," everything in black, and the women in this space. Behind the scenes, say former employees, the segment was a spontaneous idea born of a conversation about personal experiences between Black and other members of the X-Play team that received approval from the producers beforehand. Immediately afterwards, the response internally and externally was largely positive.
Without a doubt, there will be backlash.
Roberts even sent Black a message expressing his appreciation for her.
Yeah, this is what we've heard.
But in the following days, numerous YouTube videos and tweets surfaced from influencers suggesting Black had insulted G4 viewers and deserved to be fired. Black was subsequently harassed, threatened, and doxxed, meaning...
Well, that we don't know for sure. This is what I was talking about earlier. This we have no proof of that she was doxxed. That's new to me.
Yeah, meaning the trolls publicly posted private information pertaining about her real-life location. The harassment was reported on by media at the time.
No, it wasn't.
No, it really wasn't. G4, according to multiple former employees, quietly deleted the tweet in support of Black's segment and set the YouTube video of it to private. G4 did not mention the tweet nor the controversy publicly again. Well, you know what? Guess who has a copy of that video?
Yeah, we
do. For all of time.
Yeah, we have the video. And not only that, we do kind of keep going back to that because that was when everybody noticed that there was a problem with G4.
Mm-hmm,
I think it just would have gone away quietly, probably quicker than this, had that not happened. Because then we started noticing the layoffs, and then we started noticing people leaving. We started noticing a lot of the turnover after the Frosk grant.
Okay. Basically, they told her to be quiet, said a former contractor. Black declined to comment. Mm-hmm. Multiple female staffers told the Post the situation was galling and that they had been promised something different than when they joined. The message very explicitly was, we are going to be different, to be a different G4 that recognizes the sins of our past.
Hi, I'm Wonder Woman.
And we are going to make sure that it doesn't happen again in regards to diversity, inclusion, and sexism. A former female contractor said about the message when she joined the company. The former contractor decried the company for sitting idle while one of its hosts was harassed for months. So we don't know who this is. Speaking to the Post, Gerard the Completionist.
Yeah, we know him.
We know Gerard, a castmate of Black.
Not personally, but we like him.
But we know of him. Said he felt the situation forced talent to act as a customer service for G4. G4 could have done more, Khalil said.
He should have been promoted more as, hey, we've got the guy who 100%s video games. That's another thing. They didn't utilize him for anything. They kept putting him here randomly on stuff. Yeah. This is the guy who's known for 100%ing, getting 100%, the completionist. He goes and gets every little collectible, every little thing.
No consistency. Again, no consistency, no strategy.
They didn't even give him a show where he 100%s a game or gives you tips on how to 100%. They have an esports host like Frosk, and they have her read scripts of people playing video games that she hasn't even heard of, probably.
G4 could have done more, Khalil said. From the top down, a lot of people were like, what do we do? Do we hire a crisis person? Do we talk to HR? Nothing came of that. There was no formal plan put into play. Again, no plan.
Sounds like a bunch of children running this.
Yeah.
A bunch of children who've never worked at a store or a company before.
Yeah. Despite the abrupt conclusion to G4's latest chapter, some staffers were not surprised by the final outcome. It was going to break sooner or later, said a former employee, and clearly it was sooner. So again,
and this is what they're talking about with how they released this information, which was on a Sunday afternoon, last Sunday,
outside the news cycle,
and they released it to Deadline, and then everybody ended up finding out they got fired on Twitter.
They didn't have the courtesy to call them one at a time. Hey, listen, we're very sorry, but we're suspending operations. They didn't have the courtesy of doing that. Which shows you how bad a company Comcast is.
Yeah. So we do feel sorry for the employees. I feel, were we responsible too in the downfall of this, or were they on their way out in the first place, and we just kind of helped them?
They were on their way out. If it wasn't us, it was gonna be somebody else. They were on their way out. They did nothing to help themselves. They had no clear direction. They had no clear path. And they could have handled the Frosk thing differently.
They could have just moved her to an esports show, and I think everybody would have been satisfied. But then again, they could they needed to have their company functioning. They needed to have Attack of the Shows on this time and this day on this network. We're gonna do it live on YouTube because it works better there. We're gonna do XPlay on Twitch because it's more video game centric, and that's gonna do better there. And we're gonna do this here and then this here. But they didn't have any of that.
Yeah, I mean...
And I like to think that at least I've been pretty fair when pointing out the positives and when people like Frosk were right, so... When
the Frosk thing, before they said it was approved, somebody...
Which I kind of figured.
Which somebody could have taken her aside. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, didn't, okay? Somebody should have taken her aside and said, listen, this is a new venture. We're not completely off the ground yet. Maybe it's not a good idea to go out and rail on your audience. Okay, you could do this a little better. That's the thing. You can call this stuff out and you could do a little better. She comes out and says, "Women do not just be nice on the ice for you. How dare it's weird. I'm like,
Women do not exist to be nice on the ice for you.
no. Okay, you know what? I don't blame the audience for tuning out. I don't need this. I don't need to be yelled at. Click. You know, I'm not saying that's the only factor here, but it certainly didn't help. There's a way to call this kind of stuff out without being antagonistic. Hey, yeah, you know what? This is what we did in the past, but, you know, that's the old
They should have
G4.
called it out. I think that that's something that they probably could have ignored for a little bit.
You know, she said, the big problem is sexism in gaming.
Sexism in gaming.
You know, and
Really?
then she really?
Really? Because like
Really?
I've been really annoyed by people like Anita Sarkeesian saying that there's too much sex in gaming and too much, you know, hot chicks. So, you know, I've got all these women trying to tell me what I'm supposed to think and feel and how I'm supposed to act.
You know, well, but again, that comes
They only
down.
speak for me. I think childish people like went behind the scenes and just didn't know that would be a stupid thing. Sometimes when you do get really, really triggered, you can't help yourself.
I know, it happens.
I don't know. That's about all else I gotta say about this
Yeah.
one.
Well, G4, its time has passed.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye!
If you don't like it, don't watch it. Peace!